4 bills, 2 parties, and 1 state might set the standard for the nation. Utah Governor Gary Herbert's immigration bill, signed into legislation on March 15th, would change the lives of many people in and possibly even outside of Utah. But some Utahns wonder, why now? Why these bills? So we asked a panel of experts why immigration is such a booming topic at the Capitol this session. This is what they had to say.
States have been increasingly concerned about the costs. Last year, Arizona passed Senate Bill 1070. It riveted the nation's attention on enforcement, and then the federal government held the vast majority of that bill to be unconstitutional in a federal court. But it did one thing. By passing 1070, Arizona focused the nation's attention on the failed federal policies.
In part because of Arizona's law, in part because this has become a big issue nationally, I think there's a lot of pressure on Utah lawmakers to do something, and so they took it on as a major priority, and that was really why we had so much legislation on that this session. And I can tell you from my time on the Hill this session, I would say about half of the stories that I did were about immigration and sort of status reports on where the bills were, and there were various bills and reporting on what each of them would do.
The Arizona law certainly contributed to it, but there was already an underlying feeling among people, not just in Utah, but throughout the country, of crisis when it comes to illegal immigration. States feel this pinch in particular. States are required to do certain things to serve all the population, regardless of what their national origin is, and regardless of whether the individuals affected by those policies happen to have immigrated legally or illegally.
After we asked our experts why immigration is such a big issue this session, they gave us their opinion on why these bills are going to make the difference.
We put a trigger in the bill 2 years down the road, July 1st of 2013, to tell the federal government, you've got 2 years to address this problem. If not, here's a trigger. That's the start date in Utah. We have got to move forward. If the federal government continues to refuse to do their constitutional responsibilities, then the states must step up.
And there's those who argue, and certainly in Utah, this was an argument up on Capitol Hill this year, that the federal government has not done enough on immigration, has let the country down in terms of addressing this growing problem, and therefore the federal government needed to be pressured to do something, and that this was one step in pressuring the federal government to do something. So it's really hard to say. I mean, it's possible there are those who talk about this as a national model, and maybe other states will follow suit, and the federal government will say, okay, we're going to let Utah enact this program, and we're going to try it out as a model and see if other states want to join in.
Many of them understand that there is a likelihood of preemption, but they nevertheless have to do, they feel a need to do something, and so they do what they can. They hope, I suspect, at a minimum, to open up the debate so that Congress will act and Congress will do the things that it needs to do.
Experts say these pieces of legislation could bring about historical change in Utah and the rest of the nation. Brittany Shiflett, 11 News.